President Trump has unveiled a 28-point peace plan aimed at ending the Russia-Ukraine war. But here is the real question. Can this plan deliver justice for Ukraine and its people, or is it just another concession to President Putin? What exactly is in Trump's controversial peace proposal, and why is it being slammed as a gift to Putin? And most importantly, is this the peace that the world really needs? Hello and welcome, you're watching the Karan Chronicles, and this is my take on Trump's peace plan and why it's raising so many concerns. Let's start with the basics. Trump's 28-point peace plan proposes a ceasefire and an agreement that on paper sounds like it could bring an end to this war. But when you take a closer look, the concessions that Ukraine would have to make are glaring. The plan demands that Ukraine give up large chunk of its territories, including Crimea, Donetsk and Luhansk, areas that Russia has either already seized or occupied since the 2014 invasion. More troubling is that Ukraine would also have to officially renounce its NATO membership dream, a crucial safeguard against further Russian aggression. Now, the plan also proposes to limit Ukraine's military forces to 600,000 troops, down from its current 800,000, and force a demilitarized zone in contested regions like Donetsk. It also includes vague promises of quote-unquote security guarantees from the US. But these guarantees lack specifics, leaving Ukraine exposed to future Russian threats without the full protection of either NATO or the United States. Now, here is where things get even more problematic. Many experts have criticized Trump's plan as a gift to Vladimir Putin, and for good reasons too. By recognizing Russia's control over Crimea and the separatist regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, Trump is essentially rewarding Putin's invasion. This is not what peace looks like. It is a pure capitulation. But what's even more infuriating is the lack of real consequences for Russia's aggression, for Russian actions. Instead of demanding that Russia return stolen territory, the plan lets Putin keep the land he has illegally occupied. In fact, it goes far as to remove sanctions and offer Russia a way back into the global economy, including rejoining G8. The idea of lifting sanctions even as Russia continues its illegal occupation of Ukrainian territory is nothing short of appeasement. And let's not forget the amnesty clause. Trump's plan would grant amnesty to Russian forces for any war crime committed during the conflict. That's right, the atrocities committed by Russian soldiers, which includes targeting of civilians, and let's not forget the illegal deportation of children, would be swept under the rug. This is nothing but the endorsement of impunity. Now, the global reactions to Trump's plan has been, well, unsurprisingly one of rejection, especially from Ukraine and its European allies. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has called this proposal catastrophic for Ukrainian sovereignty, for Ukraine's integrity. Zelensky, who has been fighting tirelessly for Ukraine's independence, knows that accepting this deal would mean surrendering critical parts of the country. And it's not just Zelensky. The European Union has also publicly condemned Trump's approach. Kaja Kallas, the EU High Representative of Foreign Affairs, outright rejected the idea of rewarding Russian aggression. She warned that any peace deal that doesn't preserve Ukraine's sovereignty would only encourage Putin and set a dangerous precedent for future conflicts, for future wars. Also, the French foreign minister echoed these concerns, stressing that peace must not come at the cost of Ukraine's dignity or Ukraine's territorial integrity. And yet, Trump's plan does that very same thing. Also, one of the key selling points of Trump's plan is to promise security guarantees for Ukraine. But here is the issue with this promise. These guarantees are laughably vague. Trump's proposal offers no concrete military support, no clear NATO-style protection, and only a vague assurance that the US would respond if Russia escalates its aggression. These guarantees are little more than empty words when you compare them to NATO's Article 5, which is the bedrock of the alliance's security. This promises flats fall. Under Trump's plan, Ukraine would still be vulnerable to future Russian attacks, and there is nothing that would prevent Putin from acting aggressively once again. The ink is dry on this peace deal. Worse still, the plan bars NATO forces from stationing troops in Ukraine, especially leaving the country exposed to Russian aggression without the buffer of either NATO or the US. The US security guarantees are conditional, with a clause that states Ukraine could lose this protection if it were to launch an unprovoked attack on Russian territory. Well, in short, this quote-unquote security guarantee doesn't guarantee security at all. As the clock ticks down, Zelensky faces an impossible decision with limited options. The pressure from the United States to accept this plan is immense. Trump has set a deadline for Ukraine to approve it, threatening to cut military and intelligence support if Zelensky refuses to follow this plan. But accepting this deal would be disastrous for Ukraine and its people. It would mean sacrificing land, sacrificing sovereignty and future security in exchange for a vague promise that had no real weight. Zelensky has made it clear that he will not abandon Ukraine's dignity and Ukraine's independence. He is standing firm against the plan even as the US pulls him in one direction and Russia continues its brutal campaign against it. But with US support at risk, Zelensky may be forced to make a decision that could change Ukraine's future forever. So why is Trump pushing this plan? This is a very important question and you must be asking this. His critics argue that Trump's motivations are rooted in a desire to please Putin, possibly a part of his broader strategy to maintain favorable relations with Russia during his second presidency. Throughout his presidency, Trump has often been accused of being too lenient with Putin, and this peace plan seems to align with that particular narrative. The reality is Trump's plan seems more focused on securing a political victory than genuinely ending this horrific war. It's a quick fix that placates Putin, rewards Russia's aggression, and leaves Ukraine out in the cold with nothing. And in doing so, it undermines the very principle of international law and international sovereignty. So the question remains, can Trump's peace plan really bring an end to this war? Can really bring a peace? Or is it just another way of letting Russia win? Ukraine faces a dire choice between maintaining its dignity and risking the loss of a critical ally. And with the clock ticking, the world must ask, will Ukraine be forced to bow to Trump's misguided plan, or will it continue to fight for its future? As they say, the time will tell.